Good evening. Welcome to the October 5th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. In keeping with best practice guidance from the CDC, IDPH, and DuPage County Health Department, we are once again expecting those in village buildings, including this one, to wear masks. As is our custom, we'll begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Jose,
Here.
Commissioner Wallace,
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit,
Here.
Commissioner Colavini,
Here.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Here.
Commissioner Glover.
Here. Full team, fantastic. Good to see everybody tonight. Is there a motion concerning minutes of previous council meetings?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the September 21st, 2021 minutes as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions on those previous minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Mayor's report is at the front end of the meeting tonight. It is brief. However, we have a little bit of business as it relates to the role of Liquor Commissioner. Pursuant to Section 3-12 of the Downers Grove Liquor Control Ordinance, a public hearing for a liquor license application may be waived if the current license holder requests a change in license classification. However, the application must be placed on file for a minimum of 2 weeks, subject to public comment prior to the issuance of a new license. The village has received an application from 1300 Restaurant Corp., doing business as Omega Restaurant, located at 1300 Ogden Avenue, requesting an upgrade from their existing beer and wine only license to a full alcohol liquor license. Accordingly, I am placing this application for classification change on file in the village clerk's office. Barring any objection, once the 2-week waiting period has passed, a Class R1 full alcohol on-premise consumption liquor license shall be issued to Omega Restaurant. This is placed on file Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. We also have a proclamation this evening. This is National Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the National Fire Protection Association named the second week of October as Fire Prevention Week in commemoration of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, and whereas, according to the National Archives and Records Administration's Library Information Center, Fire Prevention Week is the longest-running public health and safety observance on record, and the President of the United States has signed a proclamation declaring a national observance during this week every year since 1925. Whereas home fires killed nearly 3,000 people in the United States in 2019, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to some 339,500 home fires. Whereas the Downers Grove Fire Department sponsors an annual fire prevention program. Whereas the Downers Grove Fire Department's primary concern and interest is the 24/7, 365 safety and protection of life and property in the village of Downers Grove. And whereas the Downers Grove Fire Department renders a vital public safety and prevention service in the village of Downers Grove through education, inspection, drills, and plan reviews, and responding to nearly 7,000 calls for service each year. Whereas the theme of the 2021 Fire Prevention Week is Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety, effectively serves to remind us it is important to learn the different sounds of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. And whereas the observance of Fire Prevention Week provides an excellent opportunity for individuals to make sure their smoke and CO2 alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities, and to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. Now, therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of October 3rd through 9th, 2021, to be Fire Prevention Week in the Village of Downers Grove, and encourage all residents to educate themselves on fire prevention, fire safety, and family emergency escape planning, and to support the many public safety education activities and efforts of the Downers Grove Fire Department. Dated this 5th day of October 2021 at Downers Grove, Illinois. We have a few members of our fire department team here. We'll pass this proclamation off and hear a few words.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Barnett and Council. Thank you for the Fire Prevention Week proclamation. Fire Prevention Week was established to commemorate the Great Chicago Fire back in 1871 that killed hundreds and left thousands homeless. Over the years, the National Fire Protection Agency and the Fire Service have used Fire Prevention Awareness Week to champion fire safety messages delivered to prevent fire and save lives. This year, the campaign is Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety. Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety focuses on recognizing the different sounds and alerts that safety devices make when there is a fire or carbon monoxide hazard. Knowing the unique noises the alarms make, a beep sound or a chirping sound, means it's time to take action. For the hearing impaired, a strobe light or a bed shaker device means it's time to take action. Learn the sounds of fire safety. On October 6th, we'll be back in person hosting our night at the firehouse. The event starts at 6:30 at Station 5, located at 6701 Main Street. Please come out and enjoy an evening of all types of activities for you and your families. On October 8th, the annual silent parade will take place as well. It will start at the Hinsdale Fire Department at 7 p.m. and will proceed west through Downers Grove on Maple Avenue and 55th Street, ending in Lyle. Please join us for the annual silent parade, and thank you again.
Thank you, Chief. It takes us to item 6 on our agenda tonight. This is the public comment portion of the meeting. This is the public comment portion of the meeting where we entertain comments from the public on items not on tonight's agenda. So if you're here this evening to speak on something not on tonight's agenda, now's the time. A couple of reminders. Please state your name for the record. Please keep comments to 5 minutes or less. There is no need to repeat what others have said. Please remember this is an opportunity to be heard. It is not a debate. And if there are questions, specific questions, we may address those at a later date. So if anyone has something not on tonight's agenda, please come on down to the podium.
Mayor, council member, good to be with you. My name is Sean Takar. I'm the owner of Holiday Inn Express in Downers Grove, right at 3031 Finley Road. I just wanted to come and express my opinion with the DuPage pads. They're acquiring the hotel located at 1113 Butterfield Road, and their plans to turn that into the homeless shelter, which I think it's not a wise thing to do. We're looking at all the corridors and all the businesses around. I have spoken to many businesses myself, and they will contact you in the near future to express their opinion, but I just wanted to speak for myself. Obviously, I feel there is an issue we need to address an issue as a whole, as a city, as a county, as a state, on that topic. We have an issue that we need to address. But at the same time, that particular area, that corridor is a business area, and we would like you guys to reconsider, or if there is any alternative options for that project to be relocated. We sincerely request to do something and figure out what we can do to figure out in a different area. Since this pandemic, as a hotelier, I can tell you firsthand, and also the restaurants can tell you, we had a few issues I'm not going to get into the detail, but we just want to make sure that it's a bad idea to be in that side of the corridor. What they're trying to do, it's very, very bad on that side of the area. So I just wanted to come and express my opinion, and I'll leave that to you guys to do your research and due diligence and speak to the other business owners and see what their opinions are. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for being here.
Hi, actually, it's interesting I showed up tonight. I'm here for the same reason. I was homeless. I got involved with Page County Cats.
Hey, Jim, could you move over the mic?
Hi, I'm here for the same reason tonight, because some things have been brought to my attention by people that are homeless in the homeless community. My experience with the Page County Cats was 2 years. Their assistance to me was zero. Okay, it's a numbers game. It's like insurance man. What's the result? How many win situations are they dealing with? You have people begging for assistance, and God bless them, some people really need assistance. But then when you have an organization begging and you have no control, that organization has no control of what they're doing with them people. I mean, I know people that are homeless need a place to live. But you guys, and I really do, I'm falling in love with Downers Grove. I have been for a while. For 8 years, I've been involved with the community off and on. If you're going to let these people get involved with this and push this, then you need to audit them. You need a liaison. There's incidents, and he's too embarrassed to say that I was just told tonight that are scary.
Yes.
I mean, frightening, illegal, and they have no control of this situation. One of the times when I was at a cat site, there was a flesh trafficker that was controlling one of the girls. And she basically says, I gotta leave. I says, it's 2 o'clock at night. Where are you gonna go? She says, I gotta get away from this guy. He's prostituting her. And when I basically said, exit that door, but don't leave until you get the right pickup. And I was one of the guys laying on the bed. If you're gonna let somebody open something like this, you got to make sure their administration is up and up. Okay? I don't want to call names. I have my own non-for-profit, but you don't want this becoming festering black eye for Downers Grove. You know, it's real estate. They're looking for federal funding. It would be great if you have a plan. In any kind of housing situation, there's different type of rules for different type of villages or cities. You know, home rule, this rule, that rule. I'm not expert at that. But if you're going to allow these people, you need to double check them. Their administration has changed tremendously. The kind of money they spent on a hotel, to rent the hotel, the improper traffic, the attraction from outside communities, people coming in from outside communities over the last 8 years. That's great. Find a solution. But basically, finding a solution for somebody that's road robbing and just trying to get numbers up and not finding a solution to the problems. There's people that are hardworking individuals that have a job and has left the hotels because they got a job and they got a place to live, and they're paying it on their own. That's not not a long-term solution. A long-term solution is involves the community. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional, but you guys really need to second guess this. And I know that's coming weird from me because I would have loved the idea of a hotel. And when I was in DuPage County Pets, they did a hotel a couple times when I was sick. I had pneumonia. They put me in a hotel for a couple days after I left the hospital. But if you're going to have something, anything, in your community, protect your community. God bless people that want to help people, but if you have an administration that's not concerned about their clients, then when the administration falls and slips, who's left to clean up?
Police.
The city council, the police.
Also, I just
Thank you,
wanted
Jim.
to add one more thing. I'm
Hang
sorry.
hang on one second, Sean. Are you finished, Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
just want-
We're going to do one at a time, okay?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. I just want to add one more thing, and I second that. Protecting a community, that's the reason why I'm here. You guys work so hard rebuilding this town, and it looks like it's much built out. I know you guys are doing a lot of Ogden Avenue, getting bunch of old buildings getting redeveloped or getting refaced, and I love how this town has developed over the years. I've been driving this town since I was in high school, and I love that Butterfield corridor. I love what you guys doing in Ogden, and I hate to see it getting destroyed. What I mean to say by I'm in hotel business, so I should be happy that I am losing the competitor. They're not really my competitor, but I'm losing the rooms on the market. They're like 134 rooms. I shouldn't be here. I should be happy that, you know what, we just got rid of those many rooms, so we're going to get more business. Because those people are going to have to go somewhere else, and they're going to come to us and other hotels in town. But the reason why I came here, because I care so much about the town that I'm in, and I care so much about that specials, that side of the corridor. We need to figure out to have them go somewhere else. Like, this is not the spot. This is a gold mine. It's a paradise of the Downers Grove. That area is a paradise of the Downers Grove. Anybody who pulls off that exit, they see, wow. Every guest we say, man, we have everything here. Walking distance, they can go to any restaurant. They can go to anything that they need to do. They need to go to mall. It's so much there to lose. I just want to ask you, I don't have any personal intentions or anything. I should be happy, as my business would do better if they were not in business. My business would do well if they're not in business. Quite frankly, I don't want the clientele they're getting, but I'm sure they're getting some blue-collar clientele. They could come to me and I welcome them. But all I'm saying is, I'm just re-emphasizing what he said, the reason why I stand up again, protecting the community. I could not say that the first time I stand before you. I just want to make sure, that's the reason I'm here. I want to protect that side of the corridor. That's why I'm here. Thank you again. I'm sorry.
One more quick comment.
To the mic.
I'm not saying that you should not have something like that in Downers Grove. You should be the light of something like that. What I'm saying is, if you're going to allow this, you need rules, regulations, and restrictions, and auditing, because it's needed. It's needed everywhere, all these communities. But if you just let them freelance and riffraff, and administration has the accountability, I'm saying DuPage County Pets doesn't have the accountability, by my personal life experience. And I hate to say that, but there are some good workers with DuPage County Pets. The volunteers are wonderful. It's breaking the volunteers' hearts that they haven't been able to do these church sites. But at the same time, what's been going on for the solution to the problem before the virus? How many win situations did they have? How many people did they find shelter for? How many people did they turn their life around? This is stuff that you guys have to be, have to think, second guessing, because they do, they basically, this is their stronghold. So please look at it. If you got a plan of the liaison, I don't know what your plans are. I'm just stepping into it tonight. But if you got a liaison that can work with them, close to them, and ask them questions, What's their fallback plan? You know, they're looking for money from the federal government.
Okay.
How much money did they get from Kent County already? How much money did they get from the volunteers?
Okay, guys, okay. Let's give some other folks a chance to talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up to the microphone, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bonnie Brown. I live at 940 Maple Avenue, the Marquee on Maple. And I'm here to speak with you about the parking deck. I moved here 18 months ago, purchased a condo. I pay $9,000 a year in taxes. And ever since I've been here, the parking deck has been a zoo. There is car race after car race every night. The residents were all a little stark raving mad because of the noise. We can't sleep. I called the other morning the police at 1:30 in the morning. It continues and continues. We've done everything we know to do. We have written you letters. We have called the police numerous times. And to be frank, no one's doing anything about it. They try. They put some more patrol cars in. And I understand they can't be everywhere all the time. But I'm asking you to shut down 4 and 5 decks unless you're having an event. If you have an event, that's fine. But you do not fill up all those decks, and it allows the car races to continue. And to be quite frank, we just can't take it anymore. And I don't know why Downers Grove won't do something about it on a permanent basis. I don't know why I have to be here. And my neighbors have to be here. I don't understand it. And as far as our special people, yeah, we have a lot of, I hate the word homeless, we have a lot of special people in the decking facility, a lot. And they set up homes, and they have little clubs, and they have this, and they have that. And Grandma and Grandpa was there all weekend sleeping on the cement. One of them drove up in a brand new a van and parked that there all weekend. Yeah, we all have that. And while you people are at home, I see this every day. That is my living room. Is level 4 of the parking lot. Come on over and visit me and you can see it. You'll know I'm telling the truth. You have some big problems, and I just wish that you could stop this car racing and let us people have some sleep, just one night. I thank you so much for listening to me.
Good evening, Mayor, Village Council, and village professionals, staff. I'm Sue Farley, and I would like to talk about 2 different issues. As I reviewed the 9/14 council minutes, I saw that our village manager brought to the village council an option of choosing the same architect and construction companies for planning the new civic center. I also noted the village council voted to retain them as to not only save money, but to hopefully make things move faster in the process due to the familiarity with the project. Regarding the facility replacement sustainability plan, I attended, as did many my other constituents, many meetings, discussions, discussing and offering suggestions and requests for the design of this building and the surrounding area of the building. Back in February and January and February of 2020, it was noted and should show in many of the village council minutes for new council members. The people of Downers Grove requested to have solar panels, energy-saving designs within this civic center building. with a heavy emphasis on making this building as green-friendly as possible, including green spaces in the parking lots, pavers, just to name a few things that stand out. As the Village Council voted to retain the same companies to save money, I did not see any specific timeline or any instructions to the village manager and staff emphasizing to include all of these green energy-focused ideas. Knowing it was stated before by the village manager, it is best to have included all of these requests and ideas at the beginning of the design request. My ask here is, are these green and solar ideas being included now in the new plans? My concern is that we're going to go and hear the common village council excuse of budget savings for not including these items. And obviously, these green solar ideas were very important for the many people that attended these 2019 and 2020 meetings prior to COVID, the shutdown. Have instructions been given yet? And if not, will they be? As I believe the staff has already prepared the contracts for the two companies that are being retained. What is the general timeline? Don't have to answer it this time. My other topic, on September 29th Village Council meeting, Michael Case of the Downers Grove Economic Development Corp. Emphasized how the market for the office tenants was very rough, and many companies might be looking for an incentive and or working with their workforce to move out of the suburbs and or move back to the city. I bring this up as I want to emphasize much more focus needs to be given to diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, by all of our mayor, village council, police, staff, and community. I note that Paul Scott of Unity Partnership has spoken here before the Village Council, and it's noted that Unity Partnership works with many of the police groups surrounding Downers Grove. I do believe he's also met with our police chief. Their focus is on DEI and ways to improve communication, interaction, changing actions, and training. My concern is once more the Village Council is allowing Downers Grove to lag behind our fellow communities. Just like we did with the whole marijuana thing, we were last to the party. We're behind the 8 ball and not a leader like we should be, but a follower again. The connection here with Mr. Case's comments as being a Downers Grove citizen and also working in a business world for a global company that's taken a heavy emphasis on DEI. I think here in Downers Grove, we need to emphasize more. More people are demanding that we address it, and if Downers Grove wants to improve itself as a whole, and also to attract and maintain office tenants and businesses in our community, we, and especially the Village Council, need to get on board now with focusing on being more proactive in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and show measurable actions. My ask here is, will the Village Council police staff address these needs for focusing on DEI, or will we use the old standby budget restrictions excuse, again putting all of Downers Grove's heads in the sand? First and foremost, I feel we need to address more diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as Downers Grove citizens and the Village Council, we all need to show leadership and commitment to change and growth. Thank you.
Hey, Paul, hang on one second. Like I said, this isn't a debate, and it's not going to be a debate, but there are times when I feel like, since we're establishing a record both in minutes and well as video, and there's others watching, there's additional clarification needed. You know, there's a terminology about questioning that puts a person into a spot they can't get out of, or where an answer is inherently all of a sudden wrong. A couple of things. So we have said, this council and the previous council have made clear that our intentions for this building are to be as green as we possibly can. Zero net carbon footprint has been talked about. There is no design in place. What we are talking about is entering a contract to engage a company in design. Nobody has taken their foot off the gas on that subject matter. This council, these folks sitting up here in the conversations that led to this contract being awarded, said that again. I don't know how to make sure that every person in Downers Grove who catches every meeting is aware of every commentary in meetings prior. Simply can't do it. Assuming the worst is a disservice. It's just not fair. We are talking about 2 councils in a row who have said to our staff, when we get to the point of being in design, we intend to be as green as we possibly can. Showcase, zero carbon. Those are the words that have been used by this council and the last. I fully expect that to be the continuing dialogue. The second thing is this DEI issue. We are in midstream on a DEI program, a program that follows the leadership of the White House. It models after their system and their process, and we are midstream on that. So when we come to a meeting and we say, I've seen it elsewhere, why are we lagging behind? I don't know that I can let that go. Are we leading in exactly the way every person would want? I can't answer that because there's 50,000 people. What I can tell you is this council has made as a priority action item and is now in process in a program to study how we can affect and impact DEI in our community and what role we should play in that. And we're modeling that not after our own internal looking. We're modeling that after the leadership from the White House. I think those are good things. Will they result in exactly the result somebody in particular of our 50,000 people wants? I can't answer that because, frankly, we're not done. We're in the middle of that process. But it's not fair to come to a meeting, sit in front of a camera, and say, you're not doing and you're leaving, you're lagging. This village council and the one prior have spent a lot of time on a lot of subjects, and we meet 3 times a month. It would be helpful to the whole community if when there are specific questions, they were asked as questions instead of statements of, you're not, I wish you were, how come you aren't? Because these subjects, and literally dozens more, are in various stages of work every single day by everybody involved with the village. So, that seems like a little reaction, and it kind of is, because we put a lot of work into those 2 very subjects. And so we're not going to have debates, but we do get a little freedom sitting in the center chair to try and make sure that those that are watching have as least as complete a picture as we think they should have. Paul, I'm sorry to cut you off. Come on down.
Thank you for sharing that, Mayor. And good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Scott. I was referenced. I'm a member of a Unity Partnership and also a member of the DuPage County chapter of the NAACP. Last time I spoke before you guys, it was right after an event that was held at the Boudoir in Wheaton for the Sikh community. Tonight I'm making a pre-announcement about an event that's coming up, and it's something called Faith in Blue. It's a national program that I'm new to it, but I got an invitation from the folks at the Islamic Center of Naperville, and it's going to happen Thursday evening. Faith in Blue week starts on the next day, but on Thursday evening, the sheriff, the state's attorney, several of the police leaders in the area will be invited, and I was told that I can invite any police leaders I want. I think I saw Chief Gillett. How you doing, Chief? I can invite you if you're free to go. That's not a joke, folks. I was just told on Saturday that the guy who invited me to come said if you know other leaders, let them know. I haven't seen the chief in a while, so I just want to extend that invitation. I could probably invite some of you guys too, but I was told I could invite chiefs. So he's invited you guys. You got to go through him. But again, it's going to be at the Islamic Center of Naperville on Ogden Avenue. I can give you the address, but it's Faith in Blue. It's designed. It's a program that is being put into action by the Islamic Center with the intention of reaching out and trying to build relationships with law enforcement around the area. I know Naperville will be there. I know Plainfield will be there and some others, but I told him I was going to get the word out. And thank you for sharing the information about DEI. I would simply say, I've looked at the website a couple times. It would be nice if you would kind of let everybody know where you're going with this, let them know it's there, let it's happening, and that you're following the model, that would be very helpful, I think.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else on subjects not on tonight's agenda? Come on down to the microphone, please.
Mayor Barnett, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I am Donald Stapleton. I reside in the Marquee Condominiums at 940 Maple Avenue. If I may indulge your patience, I wish to return to the parking deck conversation we had a few minutes ago. I could attest that everything that was said is the case, and that the circumstances are probably even more severe. As a resident of the Marquee Condominiums, we only want the quiet and peaceful enjoyment of our retirement home. I'd like once more to be able to depend upon reading or thinking or studying in the quiet of an evening. Sadly, too persistently, this is not the case. The ramps of the parking deck become a NASCAR raceway. Rubber is burned at every turning. The fifth level, the top of the parking deck, is a skid pad. And it's not only automobiles with their modified exhaust systems tuned to be loud, it's motorcycles too. I have seen 3 motorcycles at a time ascending and descending the ramps of the parking deck. Also to skateboards. It's appalling how noisy 2 or 3 skateboards can be at 9 or 10 at night, especially when they jump their boards and bang them against the concrete flooring of the parking deck. Our request is simple. Please help us have some peace and quiet again so we can just live quietly. If this is not the forum, if we should be addressing some other body, please let us know. Thank you. To paraphrase a current commercial, you cannot not do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so one more comment about the parking deck. I'm on a roll tonight. Not doing something is fair. We can't not do something. I get that. But those that are watching at home should also know that we have had this problem in the past. We took to enforcement, then we took to closing some of the deck. We reopened the deck after we thought perhaps there was a break in that activity, and for some time there was. And we recognized that any kind of illegal behavior is something that we have to monitor and pay attention to. We will consider this very seriously, and we will get into it. I don't know exactly what the result will be, but not doing anything is, again, a little bit of a misnomer, considering there's already been a closure of the deck in the past. So we're aware of it, we know when it's a problem, and when it's a problem, we try to address it as best we can. We do have to remember that the parking deck, like the park benches at the train station, are available to the public, anybody in the public, even skateboarders, even motorcycle riders. So when they're breaking the law, we have a role to play to try and find a way to get compliance with the law, and if we can't, to prevent bad behavior. But that doesn't likely mean zero. It simply doesn't. When you buy and live in a high-rise in a downtown, you are going to have different noises. We've heard from others over the years things like postal trucks. I've actually heard from people who wish we could monitor the train schedule. There are laws that have to be followed. We will do our very best to make sure people follow them, and if we can't get that compliance, we'll figure out alternatives like we closed the deck in the past. But there are going to be additional activities that are a function of being in a downtown. And so everybody just needs to be mindful of that. Anyone else, subjects not on tonight's agenda? Okay, we will move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Item 8 on our agenda tonight is the active agenda portion of our meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where we discuss items which we plan to take action on tonight. These are typically items which have been discussed at least once, sometimes many times before. Is there a motion concerning a salon liquor license ordinance?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance creating a salon liquor license classification as presented.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the audience on this subject? Comments or questions from the council? Rosa, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye. That motion passes. Is there an ordinance concerning liquor licenses and gasoline establishments?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance eliminating the restriction on liquor licenses issued to establishments selling gasoline as presented.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the audience on this subject? Comments or questions from the council? Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye, that motion passes as well. Is there a motion concerning an ordinance amending liquor delivery?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending liquor delivery restrictions as presented.
Second.
Comments or questions from the audience on this item? From the council? On this item, I'll just clarify a little bit. This is not so much a change, well, it is a change, but what it is driven by our need, as you'll see often in this body, to come into compliance with state law. So we're making a few changes that bring us into compliance with some recently changed state law as it relates to those who can deliver alcohol. Rosa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Glover?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilmartin?
Aye.
Commissioner Colavani?
Aye.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Aye.
Mayor Barnett?
Aye, that motion passes as well. Item 9 on our agenda, first reading. This is the portion of the meeting where we will discuss subjects, sometimes for the first time, sometimes multiple times. However, we do not plan to take official action on these subjects. These are discussions with the public and discussions amongst the council. With that, I'll turn it over to Village Manager Fieldman.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. There are 7 items on tonight's first reading agenda, 4 topics of discussion. The first topic, development proposal at the property located at Ogden and Walnut, will be presented by our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you, Manager Fieldman. As Manager Fieldman noted, the first 4 items are plat of subdivision, planned unit development, a rezoning, and a special use for the properties at 2751 through 2761 Ogden Avenue. These are on the far west side of town, here at the corner of Walnut and Ogden. If we look at the property, it's outlined here in yellow. You can see the overfly ramp there to 355 and 88 there on the west side, and then moving east on Ogden there. Currently, the first part is, currently the property is 1 lot. The petitioner proposing to divide it into 3 lots. Lot 1 would be used for a hotel site, Lot 2 would be used for a restaurant site, and Lot 3 would be a detention lot for stormwater purposes. You can see here on the site plan, the hotel is the long, thin building on the right-hand side. There are 2 options for Lot 2. One is a sit-down restaurant, shown here outlined as a square, and then the other option that I'll show here briefly is a drive-through restaurant location. On Lot 3 in the bottom in blue is a stormwater detention facility, and then to the south, the Park District owns that land and has some future development plans as well that they're considering. You can see, moving into circulation patterns, there's one entrance off of Walnut, right in, right out off of Ogden there. The petitioner has provided an access point to connect to the Park District future development as well. And then this is the internal circulation, so all the cars can get around the sites there as well. The petitioner will also be striping the two outbound lanes, northbound lanes in Walnut, one left turn, one right turn, and then there'll be one lane going southbound onto Walnut there as well. Pedestrian circulation from a sidewalk around the site, additionally a sidewalk connecting Ogden to any future Park District development, and then internal circulation patterns for pedestrians. So if anybody's staying at the hotel and want to go to the Park District site, they do have a sidewalk to use that as well. If we switch to the drive-through proposal, this is, again, the circulation is the same on the majority of the site. Then we have a drive-through lane going counterclockwise around the building and exiting within there. Petitioner's not sure at this point whether it's going to be a drive-through restaurant user or not, so that's why they're requesting a special use at this time. Again, pedestrian circulation around the site is going to remain the same, and then internal pedestrian circulation changes just a little bit to avoid conflicts with the drive-through lane as well. This is an image of the north facade of the proposed hotel. With regard to the comprehensive plan, it's Catalyst Site D1, which talks about this development anchoring the west side of Ogden, looking for a striking building and a landmark for drivers on I-355. The proposal does maximize exposure to I-355, does provide neighborhood and regional services to various folks, beautifies Ogden Avenue, and provides connections to a future Park District development site to the south. Plan Commission found that the standards for platted subdivision, plan unit development, rezoning, and special use were met at the last meeting, and they recommended approval to the Village Council. Mayor, at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you and the council members, and our petitioner is here as well tonight as well.
Thank you, Stan. Any comments or questions from the council? Leslie?
Yeah, just a clarification. I know that it's in the staff responses to council questions. I think my only question is that they obviously did an extensive review to minimize wetland impacts, which I really appreciate. I also appreciate all of the work that was put into the plant options that they're listed in there. It was very native heavy, and it was very clear that time was taken on this plan. My only question is, why, after all of that, wasn't there any wetland mitigation proposed as part of the improvements? And that just means that they'll be essentially giving money for the wetland banking program, correct? I'm just trying to clarify kind of the rationale behind that.
Yes. So the wetland is
yeah, right there.
Right. The wetlands in this area right here.
Yep.
So they've, there's no parking spaces here, which eliminates a lot of the potential impact that way. There's not a lot of space adjacent to the parking area to be able to provide significant mitigation there.
Got it.
And so in trying to avoid it as best we could, the detention basin is going to have a lot of plantings, which I believe the wetland professional felt was going to provide a comparable mitigation, I guess I would say, on that one there as well. And then the village does allow folks to pay into the DuPage County Wetland Bank.
So essentially it's just logistics.
Yes, and I believe the petition could probably speak to that a little bit as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Duffy Phelps. I'm a Vice President of Development with Holiday Properties. I think I met a lot of you at the luncheon on Friday. But to start, I did want to say thank you to the entire planning staff. Stan and Jason and Gabby and Flora have been awesome to work with. I think we spent a lot of time fine-tuning this plan, and I think we have a product that makes a lot of sense and we're proud of. So, Holiday Properties is, Downers Grove is very near and dear to our heart. It's a community that we've now been in for a number of years, not a ton of years, but a number. And the project, the Burlington Station project, is our baby, and it's a testament to who we are as a company. And we want to come in and recreate some of the success, albeit a different use. But we want to continue to be pillars in this community and give back where we can. So, addressing the question about the wetlands, we are impacting less than 1/10 of an acre, which my civil engineer isn't with us, but I believe that if it's less than 1/10 of an acre, you don't actually have to pay a fee in lieu. We actually got a notification from the Army Corps today that they accepted jurisdiction and have approved our development on them. So I think the total we're impacting is like 0.05 acres. if my memory serves me correctly, so.
That's my only question. Other than that, I think it looks great, and it certainly is right in line with our comprehensive plan and what we would look for in that kind of a site, especially knowing what's coming forward with the Park District, so.
Sure.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other council questions?
Just a comment echoing that. Thanks for the continued investment in Downers Grove. We heard from Economic Development Corporation last week, or excuse me, last meeting about how sports tourism is going to be big, could be big for us too. And I think this is a keystone for us. So thanks again.
It's the fastest growing part of the tourism industry. So
yeah, it's a good start. Thank you.
Any audience questions on this item? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Rich?
Oh, that's all right, Mayor.
Holler at me, Rich.
I had those concerns, but I thought the answer about the wetland mitigation is showing that you're interested in good stewardship of that. I also like your continued investment. Also, this could turn out to be another fine example of us cooperating with another taxing body, in this case the Park District, where our plans and the economic development benefit that comes from a project like this marries very nicely with their plans to have both an active park environment, but also keeping the passive park environment. So once again, it's 2 units cooperating for the betterment of the village of Downers Grove.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It was one of the first things we did was meet with Bill McAdams at the Park District to ensure that the use met what they were looking for in the future and ensure that we have a site plan that has that connectivity. So,
thank you, Rich. Good point.
Yeah, I did have one more question,
Sure,
Mayor.
go ahead.
I know that the restaurant is flexible, looking for some flexibility there. Do you have a sense either way, which way it may go based on any interest or based on what you think?
We've been talking to a number of groups. It's not officially listed as a site. We've been talking to some groups like off the record. And I think we did have it under contract at one point, then COVID hit and things sort of, we took a step back.
Sure.
We would prefer something that offers breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's just a better amenity to our hotel in the Park District in the future. This is a great corner to be on. I think that once we have approval and idea of what the site's going to look like, if you've been out to that site, there's a ton of grading work. There's a lot of utilities that we're going to have to bring in. But I think once we get past this stage, we're going to start marketing it heavily and, see where it takes us. But our goal would be to have something that's more of a sit-down restaurant. We are keeping it flexible because a lot of even some, fast casual places have now added drive-throughs during the COVID time. So we did want to keep it flexible, but our goal would be to have something again that offers all 3 meals. So
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
We appreciate
thank
you taking the time. Dave, back to you.
And that will take us to items E and F on our first reading agenda. Our Chief of Police, Shannon Gillette, will present these items that have to do with license plate reader camera systems and body-worn camera systems. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chief Gillette.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 2 items to present this evening, both related to enhancing our police department camera systems. The first item is a request to purchase body-worn cameras as part of an integrated system that it also includes our squad car cameras and our police department interview rooms. The second item is a request to purchase an automated license plate reader system. For background on body cameras, in February of 2021, Governor Pritzker signed into law the Criminal Justice Reform Bill, now known as the SAFETY Act. The SAFETY Act requires the Village of Downers Grove to implement body cameras by January 1 of 2024. And as part of long-range planning, the Village Council directed staff to implement body cameras as soon as possible. The police department supports the use of body-worn cameras, and it is our goal to implement the cameras about 2 years ahead of the required date. Currently, the police department operates 21 squad cameras in our patrol fleet. The cameras are provided by Panasonic and are accompanied by a physical server to manage the video data collected from the squad cars. Our current squad cameras are nearing end of life, and their physical server was scheduled for replacement this year in 2021. We also have 3 video-monitored interview rooms for criminal investigations. Those cameras are provided by Axon Enterprise Incorporated and are accompanied by a cloud-based digital evidence repository also provided by Axon. This digital evidence storage system houses interview room videos and any other digital evidence that's collected by the police department. Recently, the village conducted a competitive selection process, and staff recommends entering into an agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated to purchase an integrated system for our body-worn cameras, our squad cameras, police department interview rooms, and digital evidence storage. The proposed agreement with Axon is for a 5-year period and integrates all of our major police department camera systems into one platform. The agreement includes product installation and programming, maintenance and warranty services, equipment repair, replacement, and future upgrades. This agreement provides complete replacement of body cameras at year 2.5 and at year 5. The agreement also provides for the complete replacement of squad car cameras in year 5. The 5-year total for the agreement is $698,841, or just under $140,000 annually. The portion of this expense specifically related to body-worn cameras is $397,767, or about $79,500 annually. The amount for body cameras is about mid-range of what staff estimated during the long-range planning process. Staff recommends the use of the asset forfeiture fund for this purchase. For comparison, the current annual cost to operate our squad car cameras, interview rooms, and digital evidence storage is about $30,000. The proposed annual cost to operate body-worn cameras, squad cameras, interview rooms, and digital evidence storage is just under $140,000. This significant increase is mostly attributable to the purchase and servicing of body-worn cameras and the increase in cloud storage for that data. Regarding data retention, per the Illinois statutes, recordings made on body-worn cameras must be retained by the law enforcement agency for a period of 90 days. After 90 days, recordings made with body-worn cameras must be destroyed unless in part the recording relates to an officer complaint, a police use of force, an incident in which death or great bodily harm happened to any person in the video, the encounter resulted in a detention or arrest, or the video has evidentiary value in a criminal investigation. Regarding the Freedom of Information Act, per the Illinois statute, recordings made with body-worn cameras are not subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act, except in part when recordings related to the filing of an officer complaint, the discharge of a firearm, other use of force, arrest or detention, or law enforcement action resulting in death or great bodily harm. If approved, our next steps include coordinating the delivery and the installation of the equipment. We will update our department procedures related to the use of the system. We will provide training to our staff, and our goal is to implement the system by the second quarter of FY22. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions on body cameras you might have.
Thank you, Chief. Any council questions on the body cam portion of this? I've got a couple of them. I want to make sure I understood that it's about $110,000 per year increase as opposed to the recent history.
Correct.
Okay. And the 90 days that you mentioned, is that a statutory minimum?
That is the statute. There's no range within that period.
So there's no, it's not a range, there's no variable in the range. It's a statutory 90 days disposal unless a certain criteria.
Correct.
Okay. So there's no local control, lack of a better term, over extended periods beyond the 90 days?
There's no situation where we could arbitrarily decide to keep those files longer. I will research and make sure that I am correct in that we can't enact a rule for less time.
Okay, thank you. Chris, please.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. You mentioned, I think you walked through sort of the evidence or the interview room cameras, the car cameras, and the body cameras. You talked about a server. Is the new system all cloud-based? Are we moving everything to cloud-based in this new system?
Correct.
Okay, so the server piece goes away, and it becomes all cloud-based storage for the files. Okay.
Correct.
And then there was a mention of replacing cameras in a couple of years, 2.5 years. Is that just that it's just the run of their life, or is that to maintain a certain level of integrity?
The body cameras and the squad car cameras experience a lot of abuse due to the elements that we're working in, whether it be the weather or the day-to-day work of a police officer. So the body cameras tend to need replacing a little bit earlier than the squad cameras, but both take a significant amount of abuse.
Okay.
And so within this agreement is something called the Technical Assurance Plan, which pre-schedules the replacement of those devices. And if there are any upgrades from the time that we purchased these original units, we would get the upgraded version at that time.
It's almost similar to a lease, right? Halfway through, maybe you're getting the upgrade on the camera there.
Similar. It's not technically a lease, but similar principle.
Do they offer leasing programs on these types of items?
Not that I'm aware of, but I could double check on that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Leslie, please.
Well, now that made me think of something. I was just wondering so we know we're going to be replacing them in 2.5 and 5 years, and that's probably about as far forward as we want to go. Do you have any sense for, as this gets implemented more widely, do you think that do you have any sense for, will the technology get better? Will it down the road potentially be less costly as we go forward, or is this something that you think will probably have to be replaced every 2.5 years regardless? I know that's a big question that you probably don't have an answer to.
A question that's hard to answer at this time because we've never used body cameras.
Right.
So I had the privilege of sitting on a DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference group that wrote a white paper on this topic, and that's exactly the experience from the early adopters a couple of years ago. The costs have come down, the technology has improved greatly, and more providers have entered the business area.
That makes sense.
So we do predict that all the things you mentioned are likely to happen. And I like the 2.5 year time frame because it allows us to reevaluate, and I'm sure Axon will be reevaluating the technology at that same time frame.
Great. Thank you.
Any audience questions on this item? Okay, well, we'll be on the subject again in the future. Chief, please continue.
Thank you, Mayor. The second item I am presenting this evening is a request to purchase a fixed location automated license plate reader system, also known as LPR. Like many other DuPage County municipalities and suburban Chicago communities, the village and surrounding communities have experienced an increase in potentially violent crimes, some of those committed by people driving stolen motor vehicles. This includes crimes such as carjackings, armed robberies, burglaries, and vehicle thefts. Currently, the police department operates a limited mobile automated license plate reader system. This system includes license plate reader cameras installed on one police department vehicle that is primarily used for parking enforcement. This mobile system is provided by Minuteman Technologies Incorporated and has been in place for about 10 years. Staff is satisfied with the services provided by Minuteman Technologies and recommend expanding our use of this technology to include fixed location license plate readers. Recently, the village conducted a competitive selection process, and staff recommends entering into an agreement with Minuteman Technologies to purchase this fixed location automated LPR system. Under the agreement, fixed location license plate reader cameras will be installed at approximately 18 key entrances to the village. Once installed, the cameras read license plates of vehicles that pass through these locations. The system software then interfaces with law enforcement databases to provide real-time alerts to police officers of stolen motor vehicles and other alerts detected by the system. So I'd like to share a few key operational aspects of the system. First, what type of data is collected? When the LPR camera detects a vehicle, it will take a photo of the license plate, and in most cases, it will take a photo of the rear of the vehicle. The system will log the license plate number, the date and time the vehicle was detected, the location of the detection, and the camera ID number. How will we use that data? When the license plate is detected in the system, it is automatically cross-referenced with law enforcement databases. If the vehicle is stolen or otherwise entered into the system pursuant to an ongoing law enforcement investigation, we will receive a notification known as a hit. These alerts can be received by email, text message on a department-issued phone, or as a pop-up notification on the officer's computer screen. For patrol officers, the system alert, or HIT, provides real-time information to direct police response to a specific area, and a timely response such as this may reduce the likelihood of a crime being committed. By alerting patrol officers, the LPR system may aid in the recovery of stolen vehicles and in the apprehension of offenders driving those stolen motor vehicles. Automated license plate readers also provide real-time alerts for license plates associated with missing or endangered persons. For investigators, the system alert may provide valuable leads to aid in the follow-up investigation of violent crimes should they occur. A key investigative use of LPR is to identify when and where a suspect vehicle entered and exited the village before and after the commission of a crime. To protect the integrity of the system, each user has a unique password-protected login, and the use of the system is tracked through a robust audit trail. By policy, use of the system is restricted to law enforcement purposes, and the program will be monitored by the Lieutenant of Investigations, who is a member of the Police Department command staff. How long will we keep the data? There is currently no state law that specifies limits on data retention for automated license plate reader information. However, our current police department policy limits our data retention on license plate readers to 6 months. After 6 months, this data is automatically purged from our LPR system. What data, if any, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act? License plate data may be subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act, and I'm quoting from the statute, when compiled without possibility of attribution to any person. In other words, we would not release LPR data that includes personal identifying information of any kind, but we may be required to release a compiled list of license plates detected by the system if requested. The proposed agreement with Minuteman Technologies is for a 2-year period and has a total cost of $226,684. The year one total is $215,971 and includes the bulk of the initial hardware purchase, installation, software, an annual camera connection fee, and system monitoring and maintenance. The year two total is $10,712. This includes the annual camera connection fee and system monitoring. We estimate the costs in subsequent years will be between $10,000 and $20,000 annually, and the 5-year total cost is estimated to range from $257,000 to $287,000. This is about the mid-range of what staff estimated in the long-range planning process. Staff recommends the use of asset forfeiture for this purchase. If approved, our next steps include coordinating the delivery and the installation of the equipment. We will update our police department policies and procedures related to the use of the system, We'll provide training to our staff, and our goal is to implement the system by the second quarter of FY '22. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Questions, comments from the council? Greg, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, the 6-month limit on purging data, does that data include any hits that you might have? Are those lost after 6 months as well?
Our current policy is that all data is purged after 6 months. There can be different policies put in place for what you do with data that relates to a legitimate hit. In our current operations, we take that data and it becomes part of our case report, so that it's not an issue to purge it from the LPR system. And so that's one of the processes that we'll be putting in place. If approved, we'll be reviewing our policy and determining if there needs to be separate time limits for different aspects of the system.
I see. And the current 6-month limitation, how was that arrived at?
There's a wide range of retention policies from police departments across the country, and they range from a month all the way up to several years. In discussions with our investigations division, 6 months is a reasonable period to not compile so much data within the police department and to respect the privacy of individuals to purge that data from the system. But it's long enough that if we establish that there's a crime pattern occurring in the village, there's enough data to possibly identify and establish the pattern of travel for a criminal investigation.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Rich?
As part of offloading that into a case, is the audit system robust enough that it would consider that electronic chain of custody?
It would. So if we put it into the case file, that becomes a permanent part of our records management system. And there would be an audit trail within the system that would notify the lieutenant of investigation or the administrator of the system who accessed it and who downloaded it.
Thank you.
Leslie?
Yes. One question I do have, and I know that this isn't necessarily part of approving this, but it's something that I just have concerns with, is I looked at the hot list. My question really is, so what happens when when our patrol officer gets a notification from a hot list, say it's maybe not even necessarily a carjacking, but a violent offender? I just want to make sure we have a good process in place where if there's someone who is in that car that doesn't necessarily know that we're tracking them and there's a violent offender, then nobody is harmed in the meantime because we're hot on the trail of, somebody, the license plate that just got tagged in. So I know that that's kind of a bigger question and part of the policy, but it still is a little bit how we operate with some of these cameras, knowing that we're now going to have all of these other potential entry points into the village monitored. It does increase then our risk of, someone being harmed who wasn't necessarily part of that offense. Do you know what I mean?
As part of our training protocol and the general principles of the use of the system is that any hit that's received on LPR has to be independently verified by the officer. So, for instance, if a plate is captured and it says it's stolen, the officer has to then go to our law enforcement database and independently run that, or ask the dispatcher to run that to verify that it's a stolen vehicle. They also have to have probable cause to make the stop. They have to have a legal basis for making the stop. So they have to independently verify that information and have a legitimate legal reason to stop that vehicle. And that would certainly be a part of the training.
Is that portion of it, maybe not fully developed in the moment, but is not that dissimilar than current processes where we would come across a plate in sort of our normal duties, either with our existing equipment or in patrol, and see a plate, right? There's a verification and probable cause component still in that system as well, right?
Correct. I can provide one example. It's not uncommon for a police officer to get a hit on a license plate that starts off, that says stolen, and the officer has to independently verify that that's a stolen vehicle, and at times, looking into that further, they determine that it's a stolen license plate versus a stolen vehicle, and maybe it's missing from the front of the owner's car because the front license plate was stolen. So the officers are trained to understand how to read those printouts and to decipher them and determine if they have probable cause based on the initial information they received.
Chris, please.
So the cameras are designed to detect stolen vehicles or license plates of those that have been registered as stolen. And through my understanding of the crimes that occur are often happening with stolen vehicles. So people are stealing vehicles and to go steal more vehicles, right? So that's part of the reason it's not just about identifying that vehicle as a stolen vehicle, but beyond that, of what that stolen vehicle may be going to do next, correct?
Correct.
Are there, you mentioned in your in your description about what else it can be used for, and you talked about like missing persons, and I assume Amber Alerts, those types of things, which I think is amazing. Are we also looking for vehicles that may not be stolen, but may belong to people who are suspect or suspected of having committed a crime or belonging to someone that you might be looking for? And is that something that would be a hit as well?
Investigators have the option of creating a hot list file,
Okay, yep.
which would then be entered into the system. So if violent crime happened in Downers Grove and we obtained suspect vehicle information, the detective could enter that into the system as a hot file for other agencies to keep an eye out for that vehicle.
Yeah.
Enforcement taken related to that, the officer that encounters that vehicle still has to have probable cause to make the stop. But we are able to share that information. That's part of the value added to the system, is being able to share that information on crimes that go past the borders of any municipality.
And just a hit isn't enough for probable cause?
Always has to be independently verified
Okay.
by the officer and the department.
And then one last question, it may be a silly question, but the camera is capturing the plates as they enter. Are they also capturing them if they leave?
I'll have to look at the technical specifications on exact placement of it, but that is the general idea.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I just wanted to follow up on something Commissioner Gilmartin asked. The question with regard to whether cause would exist to make a stop. It has to be independently, so the hit is seen by the officer, he then independently verifies it. At that point, cause would exist to stop the car, correct?
Likely, yes.
Okay. You wouldn't need some independent traffic violation.
Depending on the crime under investigation, correct.
That's interesting. So the officer gets the hit, independently verifies the existence of a stolen car in Downers Grove, and that's not enough to make a stop?
No, that would be enough.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood kind of what we were talking about. So, thank you.
Others? Chief, I got a couple of questions kind of following some of these same threads. It strikes me, and maybe I guess I'd like you to correct me if I'm viewing this wrong, but this is essentially an automation leveraging of an existing process. A plate could be identified any number of ways by any number of agencies in or outside of Downers Grove today.
Correct.
And that information is made available to different agencies in different ways. And others, some have automated systems, some have partial automated systems like we have, some have none. That process of getting those folks, those numbers into the system is is really, this is an automation of that. We would have, you used the example to say there was violent crime committed in Downers Grove. We had information that led us to a license plate number. We would likely put that information into the system, which includes other agencies anyway, right?
Correct.
So receiving that information from other agencies in a more automated fashion, or identifying them in a more blanketed automated fashion, is really, it's a technology leverage. It's not necessarily a new process or a new policy or even a one-off for Downers Grove, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And this isn't, strikes me too, it's an opportunity, I think, to add to the likelihood, it's an opportunity for us to increase safety of both residents and officers, because it seems to me the other thing that happens here is with some slightly, I'm going to use the term, maybe it doesn't make sense, but some remote notice, if you will, it allows a little more intentional, deliberate engagement on our part, as opposed to what might otherwise be a little more reactionary. Is that kind of a fair way of describing it?
Absolutely. Earlier in my presentation, I mentioned that a hit that may relate to a stolen vehicle entering the community provides the patrol officer and the rest of his team, his or her team, to respond in a proactive manner to the area where that vehicle was last seen, as opposed to possibly responding to a burglary on the back end of it and trying to trace back the steps of the criminal's path.
Sure. Do we have any sense from some of our, neighbors? I'm thinking Elmhurst, Wheaton, and LaGrange, those are the ones that pop into my head just as comparatives. Do we have any sense from them about, what kind of, how many, about hit rates, about frequency of hits?
I don't have that information. I could inquire about that.
It's just a curiosity thing more than a policy question, but some of those communities have similar size, Elmhurst and LaGrange, connections to interstates, some of the things that are challenges for us. It might be interesting to have some sense of how often they're hitting on things.
Sure.
And then this is really for Dave and more of an administrative question, not a policing question. But this subject, we were on this subject, as has been alluded to during our LRP sessions. And despite the lack of audience, it's a pretty important thing for both our village as a policy and our law enforcement community and for our residents. And so I don't know if there's any way to do this, but that previous discussion, if there was some way to, in our documents, link that back so that residents who wanted to learn as much as they could about this could see not only this meeting, but the previous conversations we've had about it. I don't know how to do that exactly, but it'd be great if somebody could do that.
We'd be happy to do that. This is really an example of great policy making by this team. Direction, issue identified by Chief and his team over the summer, general policy direction given by council, where we identified several key policy questions, which allowed the Chief and his team to be prepared for tonight's discussion and ultimately a decision. Very proud of that process, and we'll be happy to link that for everybody to see.
Great. Any audience questions on this agenda item? Another one, Chris?
I just have another one. I'm sorry.
No
to
problem.
follow up on your question regarding the number of hits that maybe our neighbors have seen in neighboring towns, what about a step further? Any data that we can understand of how it's helped to perform in either catching more of those stolen vehicles or reducing the amount of crime based on catching it in advance? Any data that you might have or might be able to get on that would be great.
I can inquire, yes.
Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by the real-time nature of this because we know from previous reports that they're using other stolen vehicles or stolen plates to commit other crimes with carjackings. The idea of being able to capture the whereabouts of the stolen vehicle entering on one of our thoroughfares, and if they're successful in their carjacking or robbery from someone's driveway, now we have two pieces of information, 2 stolen vehicles, and then we pretty much know where they're coming in and where they're going. So is it your view, and I don't know if we discussed this during the LRP conversation, or maybe it was in our internal briefing about that, is it real-time enough where we can enter that in and, moments later it's available to other jurisdictions to be on the lookout for XYZ dark-colored van?
If we initiate an investigation, we can enter the hot list file immediately, and it would be available to any other agency that is sharing that system.
Sounds like a game changer to me.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Nicole?
I just wanted to say thank you. I did not get a chance to ask any of these questions, and then everyone asked the questions that I had written down and circled, and so I just wanted to say thank you so much. We asked a lot of questions during the LRP process, and clearly have asked a lot of questions tonight, so appreciate your feedback and your thoughts and all the information.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank my staff. Our team did a lot of work and a lot of research to make this possible, so thank you.
All right, we'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope for a robust discussion of the next item as well, which is item G, an ordinance providing for the regulation and application of small wireless facilities. This ordinance brings our local ordinance into compliance with recently amended state law, which provides a slight expansion of our local control of the right-of-way and aligns with new FCC regulations. Enzo is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Council questions, comments on this one?
Or Chief Gillette, too, because he did such a great job on the last one. That ends our first reading tonight.
Are there any audience questions on that item? Okay, thank you.
And I also have no report under the manager's report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Somebody's in a hurry to get out of here.
Just a tough act to follow. So.
Yeah, I got that right. Village Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. 4 items to present tonight. The first is an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance to designate the property at 2751, 2761 Ogden Avenue as Plan Unit Development Number 65 and authorize a hotel and a restaurant development. An ordinance rezoning certain property located at 2751 through 2761 Ogden Avenue. And an ordinance authorizing a special use for Lot 2 of the Ogden and Walnut re-subdivision to permit a restaurant with a drive-through. And the last item is an ordinance providing for the regulation of and application of small wireless facilities. They will all appear on next week's active agenda, Mayor. Thank you. That is all.
Thank you, Enzo. Mayor and council member reports. Opportunity for council members to report out on goings-on in the community, other agencies or groups that they're part of. It's fun to pick on somebody, so I'm going to look at Danny and pick on Rich.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Leslie.
I do. I just want to remind everyone that Youth Outlook is going to be opening the drop-in center at the First United Methodist Church. It's for 12 to 20-year-olds, and it will be opening on Thursday, October 14th, and the drop-in center runs from 6:30 to 9 p.m.
Thank you. Nicole.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder that you can still sign up for the Grove Express 5K Run and Walk on Thursday, November 25th, Thanksgiving morning at 8:30 at groveexpress.com. That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Danny.
No report. Thank you, Mayor.
Chris.
Just one thing, I think we've got some scouts back there in the audience, so I just want to appreciate you for coming and participating, listening into tonight's meeting. This is an important part. As a former scout, I love to see you out there, so thanks for coming and listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
I have no report either. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.